Hello, this is Creative Matthew, and this is going to be just a art video of me taking an owl and trying to make my own little, character out of it. But I mean, it's just going to be single images. It's not going to be a specific kind of thing, but it's more of a, a fun idea. So it's not just a study, but it's changing things around a little bit, making it a little bit more fun. And I have some reference to get ideas of. One's for a pose and one's for the type of look I want. Well, let's get started. Start with rough. I'm not trying to do clean lines, but I am trying to make it follow the form, meaning it's supposed to be accurate. Like artists would talk about drawing, like kind of roughing it out. When they rough it out, they're not just scribbling a bunch of random lines. They're following the form of the object, but they don't know exactly how thick maybe the arm is or how big the head is. So they're going to just kind of do this, trying to expand it out like, okay, that's a little too small, so let's make it bigger. And do this to get the idea and get the right proportions. But they're still following what the object actually is and what it's supposed to look like. But it obviously doesn't look all clean and that sort of thing. That comes later. Let's get this. Let the legs go off. See, should make the head, there's not much space to make the head bigger. That's gonna be too big for that head. Still too big for the head. I want the eyes big. I want to make it cutesy. So I'm gonna make the eyes a lot bigger than they would be in real life. And that might be over exaggerating. That might be able to take it too far. I know that's kind of pushing on creepy, but let's at least get the beak in here and see. No, don't like. And this is what artists do when they're exploring and trying to figure things out. It's not all. I already know exactly what I'm going to do. Honestly, they have to do thumbnails. This is kind of the equivalent of a thumbnail. Though in reality, thumbnails usually are small, like especially in the old school days with pen and paper. You just make these little tiny little squares, and you'd make it big enough to get what you need out of them. But you really then just try to figure out layout. If it's going to be a landscape where different things go. If it's going to be an animal, more just like how do you, if you want to just do a portrait, you want to do the full body, and if so, where do you want to position it? And if you're going to have it with in actually living in nature. But if they want the animal lying out somewhere instead of just doing one of those things where they have the plain background, but they actually want it in a scene, then they'll do the thumbnails to kind of figure that out. Nowadays you can kind of jump into the digital and just plan it out as you're scribbling it out and stuff like that and experiment. I'm liking this thing better. I like the idea of the big eyes, but it wasn't working. I want some sort of thing that I can use as kind of like a mouth to give it some personality. That just looks like a mustache. Let's just move the beak down a little bit. And in reality, I'm pretty sure in reality the beak's closer to the eyes like that, but let's move it down. Trying to give this thing personality. And that just makes it look like a mustache. I don't want to give it quite that. Anyway, art's about having fun. It's about exploring. You're creating your own world. Not like in a video game creating a world, but in this case, you're creating a world or a creature or a character. I mean, sometimes you're just drawing an object. You're appreciating the beauty of what's already here, but you're also learning from that. So that way, if you do want to create your own little character for a game or something, or you kind of have an idea for something for a movie, you can do that. Okay, you see all this stuff. That's because I started with a template that I have created for actually doing portraits, and I forgot I had all these different layers here already set up for that. That's what I started with, and then I expanded it out. Don't need all that. As I said in my live stream video, I like to keep my layers labeled. I like this little character. This is just be a simple thing, nothing too complex. And that makes it look, doesn't make it look fluffy enough. Trying to make it look fluffy without it looking messy. I mean, technically the feathers would be, I mean, they'd be a little even. Still. I want to zoom in for the feathers if I'm trying to do that. What is that? What do I see? Anyway, curious how you guys think about this. Like, what do you, if people start watching this, what would you want me to draw, to do? The live stream has a creature design. It's just the start of it. I haven't, like, I don't know if I might finish it on my own for just my own fun, but I mean, usually when you have concept design, it's usually for a reason. You're doing it for a company wants some ideas for a game or something nature, and so just to do it without having any like real reason. I mean, you can do it for yourself. That's usually where you're just making your own thing because you think it's fun. I mean, that's what art is. Art's not supposed to be some complex thing. I mean, yes, it takes effort and it takes work and it takes skill, but to just get something that but just to draw, to grab a pencil and paper to draw anything, that just takes desire. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to look like what it's supposed to look like, and it might be frustrating if you're trying to get it to look realistic or trying to make it look more like what you want it to. But the fact is when you first start out with art, no matter who the person was, they all start off in the same place. Some people were a little bit more, I guess, skilled at seeing when things were off and fixing it. I mean, it took me forever to actually get to where I was, to where I could actually start drawing things the way it should be. I mean, even this is still in a kind of rough character cake. This isn't supposed to be a realistic drawing by any means. It's supposed to be kind of a fun little character, but there was a time when I couldn't even get it to look like this. It would look, I tried to draw an owl or a bird, and I'd be like, people were like, what? I don't know, it looks like a marshmallow? I struggled, but I wanted and was determined to become an artist. I loved art and I always wanted to do art, so I stuck with it. If you wonder what I'm doing right now, I'm trying to enlarge my reference photo because I want to get some details into this thing. I don't want it just to be Try to add some fluffiness of feathers and that sort of thing. Yeah, like, I mean, anything that you want to do, if you want to go into art, or if you want to go into coding or development, or let's say you just like enjoy building houses, or you enjoy like welding or whatever you go into, there's got to be some passion there. If you don't have passion for whatever it is, eventually you're gonna get burned out. Like, there's got to be some sort of passion there. For me, I've always been passionate about art. I always enjoyed it. I remember growing up watching Bob Ross. And he'd do this happy little tree, happy little forest. But I was amazed at him, what he was able to do. So base, I'm gonna give this one some color. Don't know if I'm gonna stick with the colors and the actual references, but I might do my own. Just trying to clean up. Like, this may seem messy and things like that, and it is messy, but it's not. I don't know. It's still, you know, a fun design thing where it still shows what I want. Should probably be like that. It's a curious little owl, like trying to see what in the world is that above me. Is it food? No, it doesn't look like food. What is it? Yeah, I don't like those things. I like the head as it is. This might still be faster just to paint it in like you did in a coloring book. You try to paint within the lines. But I'm not sure where it is. There's one right there. There we go. And what I do is I go base, I invert my selection since I selected outside the owl. And then I'm going to give it just a, I don't know, the reference folder has a kind of a brownish thing. And I kind of want to experiment with color. I like my color. I do like kind of the white fluffy belly. That's kind of fun. Now if you're wondering how do you pick something that's white, I'm not doing pure white. Pure white is bright. I mean, paper you could say is possibly pure white. But like when you're painting with actual traditional paint, the white of the paint is still not pure white. They make it close, but I don't think it's ever pure white. I'm not sure it's possible with that. I just know that with gouache. Gouache is a opaque watercolor, which means that you can paint light over dark, dark over light. But I know that with gouache, if I'm painting white, the white, instead of using the gouache, it's not quite as bright as the paper. So if I want something that's more bright, I should just leave it the color of the paper. You can experiment with some color. It's changing just some general settings of brushes. This is just the base color. I don't know if I want to stick with, like, the reference has the legs all kind of white with some texture to them. I don't know if I'm gonna, I think I might, let's try this, just for fun. This is art. Art is not just about, oh, I'm going to replicate the way a bird looks. No, it's about having fun with it. It's about choosing your own colors for it. Think about when you're a kid in a coloring book, if you did that, and just like, especially when you're really young, where you're not trying to make it look like, oh, I'm painting a horse, I need to make it brownish or black, or no, you're just a kid having fun painting it with whatever colors you want. Don't get you don't have to get away from that. You can still do that and still have fun with that. Something like, as an adult, there's something that I'm going to keep probably a little bit more close to what it is, just because it kind of fits and helps it to see as a owl. But there's some things where it's like, you know what, I'm going to have my own fun. I'm not going to do the standard thing. For the inside of the eye, do almost black but not quite, more of a dark blue. Let's change the brush. Let's see, let me do this one. And we'll take off that so it's do 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 do. It's like, oh no, I painted outside the line. Well, this is when you go back to your old school days of art, if you did that. Where you set the other color that you have over there, and you just paint it out. So what do I do the beak? I can make it more, what it would be, but it's a little too dull, but still, I'm going to go with something I want. I'm going to go with the green again. And then give a little bit of white. There's the base. Let's see. It's pretty solid. Because what I'm going to use is I'm going to use the base as my selection. I don't know. It's not. I'll just keep the base as it is, where I have just the different colors. Let's add some variety to that face. Back to this. Change the brush. Brush is. I mean, you could do all this thing with just a standard Photoshop, or in this case, this is GIMP brush. The whole thing with the different brushes is more just for fun. It's kind of adding some extra kiddiness to it, where you're just experimenting with different things. Oops. I don't want to go over the eyes. I'm liking it. Let's keep that as it is. We'll keep that as is, and then what we'll do is we'll actually do highlights and shadows, there's a little layer technique you can use where you do the think here mode up here. I don't know if you can actually see that how well you can, but if you're in a phone you may not be able to. And then on the brushes you also have that same thing called mode, and both are set to normal. You can change either brush or you can change the layer. And in this case I'm changing the layer, and I can do multiply, which will multiply whatever I put on top. So like, let's do this. I'm doing this nice bright blue, if you can see that on your screen. But yet, it's coming out kind of dark because it's multiplying it. It's like taking it and times it by a certain amount and overlaying it on top of it. And so, now if you do a light and you multiply, I mean even then, it's still going to darken it because of all the extra, it's like duplicating it so many times. I don't know the actual mathematical formula they use. I mean, I started off as a developer for doing iPhone development. So I've done stuff like that, but not really. I've never done it for actually painting software. And that's a little different. But like, if I could take the color for my shadows. Like, you go outside and you look outside, you look at the shadows, you look at things. Especially if you take a photo of something. Like, take a photo of somebody outside when there's a lot of like trees and stuff like that, and then actually go put it into Photoshop or into GIMP or whatever program you use to actually manipulate things or change things, and then take the eyedrop tool and start going on the person's face or something, and or on the person's arm, and just look at the different colors. It's not one solid color by any means, and you'll find a lot of the colors around the person are actually reflected into the skin and stuff. There's a lot of bounced light. Well, the shadows and the highlights are also going to be tinted a certain way. You can do kind of cool shadows, which kind of cool colors. I mean, they're like, just think, what do you think is cool? What's cold? Ice, like snow. You have like ice, snow, kind of white, but you also think kind of blue. You see a lot of blue. That's kind of cool colors. Warm colors, red, orange, fire. Things like that. That's pretty simple, basic like things where you just have to think, what's a cool color? What's a warm color? I mean, and there's a whole course you can get if you want to. Aaron Blaze has a course on his site about color theory that you can get. There's other places you can go as well. But really, those things are good to get you started. But then the best way to do it is just to practice. But let's see. Let's shrink down this. And let's just have some fun with some brushes. For the shadow. This is mainly just get texture. Like you can use a solid round brush, which they have, but it won't give you the same, it won't quite give you a certain texture. But if you're just starting out, just stick with a basic round brush. Practice with that and kind of getting an idea of that. Now you noticed I'm putting the shadow's one color, but it's not changing this green color. It's not changing the eye color. That's the whole point of the multiply or overlay, but overlay does it a little different. Overlay doesn't multiply, it doesn't duplicate it and then put it on top. It just has it once. Probably going to keep the line drawing in, especially since this line drawing has a lot of like life to it. I mean, this isn't to say how, like, if you're trying to do something more realistic or something, you'd be a lot more careful with your line work. This is me just getting something out and just having some fun and deciding to record it for those who might start watching this. Now what you can do is, like, you can actually do overlay as both a shadow and a highlight, because it just overlays right on top just one single layer, where multiply seems to duplicate it multiple times and then puts it on the top. So even if you have a light layer because it's multiplying and stuff like that, it's duplicating and stuff like that, it's actually making it darker, darker, darker before it finally overlays it on top. But if you want to like keep it kind of separate and just have two different layers, and you can do like I don't remember, there's screen. Screen's a layer you can do for highlights, but screen's extreme. I don't know what, like how you, I guess it's like multiplying it, but on the but instead of darkening it, it's like it multiplies it but does the reverse, and it lightens it until it's so light that it really shines out, but it's a little extreme. Didn't spell that right, I don't care. And so like for temperature of your highlights, I mean if you're out in the sun, it's usually going to have kind of, I mean I'm not sure how much you get of the orange glow, but you're going to get certain highlights in it. I mean you can have the sky reflecting in it. That might be a little too yellow. I still want to find something else for, I actually kind of like that. I guess it's almost a feathery feel, but that still looks extreme for my highlights. I might even go a little greenish just for, I mean if there's green foliage, you're going to have bounce light coming off of it, so hey, why not? So erase it off the eyes. Eyes are going to be more smooth. I mean, again, this is fun, so you can do what you want. You don't have to quite follow realism, though. If you're first learning, learn how to do it kind of more realistically, so that way if you want to change things up, you want to go for, in other words, you want to be able to change everything and like things. You at least know, hey, if I want, I don't know, I may just cut that part out. I think I will edit this video. But anyway, if you're first learning, practice doing things how things are for real. And I mean, there's things you can get away with because they're like with light, with the color of the light, so that you're gonna have different things with room temperature, or your bedroom lights, your kitchen lights. Different things are gonna still give you different colors. Shadows. Still haven't done the legs yet. I'm liking this so far. This is just be kind of a quick little thing. How long have I been going? 28 minutes, and there's some parts to edit out, so it won't be a very long video. But I'll give you something else until I start getting more content. Let's go to something that still has some texture but not quite as extreme. Let me do this. Do 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 do. When I first started doing art, I mean, I was under this misconception, which a lot of people apparently are, that oh, professional artists don't use reference and all this stuff, and that's wrong, completely, totally false. Professional artists use reference. they oftentimes will take their own reference. That means they'll take the camera out and they'll go exploring some mountainside if they do landscapes, or if they're trying to find animals, they'll go to, if they have animals nearby, whether it be a zoo or if they actually can go out in the wild and see the animals safely, key point, safely, then they'll do that. Let's see, I'm liking where this is at. Let's see what it looks like with that drawing. It still needs some work without the drawing, but I still like what's at. I'm going to add some light to the eyes, give it a little bit more reflection. Well, not reflection. I'm just going to keep the eyes simple, but just give it a little bit more highlight to get a bit more roundish to it. In this case, I want something that has not really much of a texture. Just, yeah, that's too extreme. You turn the opacity down, but rather. So let's still turn on the opacity. Spacing and define. Nah. Not liking it. I think I'm going to go with a very subtle light. And maybe do just a little bit brighter. And give it a little bit of rich color. I'm using the smudge tool to blend it out. Let's remove that little bit of drawing right there. There. I like that. Let's take the drawing and turn it down. Still, you can kind of see it, but that way it's not quite so. It is. And so I think from here, I don't know if I want to do if I want to actually try to paint some sort of thing into the background, if I want to just do a basic color. Done with the owl reference, so I'll remove that. Now let's start with just since this is digital, one easy thing I can do is I can quickly just fill in color or even gradient. This allows me to change it on the fly. Try the different layer modes. Let's see. There we go. Just do it. There's an only screen. See, screen makes it really bright compared to like Dodge. Subject removes the green, shows a lot of the opposite color. Go back to normal. The thing is, once I have this thing done, I can always change that. But what I might want to do is, I kind of like the value of it. So let's see. I can change the color on the fly. I could use these things, or I can just do this and select Ding ding. I kind of like it just as it is. I think I'll leave it like this for now. Again, I like to name my layers. Let's see. Let's go background. Background color. Sign. Some people also date. I don't know if there's actually a benefit to dating it or not. Oops, still have the little thing on. There we go. It's just a real quick little rough thing, just for fun. Just like I mean, if you're starting out with art, I mean, try things like this where you're just kind of roughing something out, just getting an idea, just get something you like. If you're struggling with it, then it's probably because there's things you don't understand yet, and so then take a break and like look at different art videos, tutorials. Proko, there's this. I mean, take his name Stan Proko Pinko. He has stuff, but you just look at Proko and you find him. Aaron Blaze has stuff on his site. There's other ones that you can find out from, like Aaron Blaze will mention other ones that he knows of as well on some of his videos. But I mean, really, the thing is, like, art is a way to express yourself, but to do it the best, or to give you the most options and to be the most free with it, so that you can do whatever you want, whether it be realistic, or cartoonish, and anything in between. The best thing to do is to learn what you can, because that gives you that opportunity to change it how you want, rather than pretty much you're dictated by what skills you've gathered so far. The more you can gain in those skills, not just with digital drawing, but with traditional, then the better off you are when it comes to just expressing yourself, because you have that much more tools. It's like if you could speak multiple languages, then you could speak to a whole lot more people. Well, art's like that. The more you know, the more people you can connect to. So this is Creator Matthew signing off. I'll probably be editing this thing and then uploading it. So, bye-bye.